Hello and welcome to American Government at Fort Hays State University, Political Science 101. I'm your professor for this class, Dr. Chapman Racakway. Thanks for enrolling. This video is intended just to get you started for our class. The first step that you should take is to take a look around. Here's our Blackboard main page, and you can see here's our class banner. You can customize your own for announcements, calendar, what have you. This is my view. The basics, we have our home page here. All announcements are located right here under this announcements tab. There are none so far, but there will be as the class goes on. Make sure that you look at announcements the first thing whenever you log in. If you're having a question or a problem, oftentimes another student will be having the same thing. And if I get multiple questions, comments from students, I'll usually address those in the announcements. So sometimes I may not reply directly back to an email if someone's telling me about some kind of issue, but I will make a point of putting it up on an announcement and sending an email out to the entire class about these things. Under administration, you can read a bit more about me under the instructor tab. But when you're ready to get going and start working through the class, go to the Start Here link over on the left-hand side of the Blackboard page. You'll see that briefly we have a listing of the instructions here in addition to this video. We also have a copy of the syllabus. You'll see that the syllabus is a really important part of any college class. Oftentimes people look at it as just something like a formality, but I look at a syllabus as kind of a contract between the student and the instructor. You will know quite clearly what I expect of students to get through the class well, and you also know what you can expect of me as your instructor by reading what's in that syllabus. Finally, in the syllabus, you'll get a bit of a roadmap for how the class is going to be run. Though you also have a calendar here that has listings of our sections, when due dates are, and so on. But when you're ready to get started into the content of the class itself, go under the content header and go to lessons right here. In the lessons, you'll see that I have separated us into 4 different sections with 15 total chapters involved. For each one of these sections, there is a separate folder for each lesson. Within each one of those lessons, you will see a set of learning objectives, a brief introductory video that I've shot, the listing of your readings, a PowerPoint to go along with those readings, and then a discussion and a quiz. I'm going to assess each one of your discussions from each module on the schedule provided in both the syllabus and on the course calendar. And discussions are a very important part of what we do in any college learning environment. In-person classes meet so students can get together, discuss those readings with each other, build community amongst themselves, and that's really what we're trying to replicate with the discussion board here. So start out by getting to know who your fellow students are, Chaps Wall of Voodoo, and then you can get into the discussions in each one of these individual discussion sections. A little bit of advice for discussions, and I want you to take a look at the example that I have provided here. This is a discussion thread about the question, how are political parties organized in America? You'll see that our first example response is someone who says they aren't. And I've bold-faced aren't for 2 reasons. First of all, it's poorly punctuated. Second of all, it's far too brief. What does that mean, they aren't? There's nothing that I get from it that tells me you've done your readings, you've thought about it, you have put enough analysis into it to understand how political parties operate. So substantively, that's a bad post. And form-wise, it is a bad post. Spelling is important too. You'll see that at the end of this response, I have bold-faced the word levels because it is misspelled. A simple mistake that you can make is not spell checking your responses. Please spell check everything. I do grade on spelling and also on grammar. Make sure that words like there, whether it's spelled T-H-E-Y apostrophe R-E, T-H-E-I-R, or T-H-E-R-E, those are in line and appropriate. This person meant T-H-E-Y apostrophe R-E, but spelled it T-H-E-I-R. I will grade on spelling and grammar, so go through and thoroughly check every post that you make. Also remember that we're in a more formal environment, so casual colloquial language is not appropriate. And sometimes I have seen people who will use chat speak, text speak, or emoticons in their answers. This is completely inappropriate, and I do not allow it. I will mark off for that. So do not use emoticons or other kind of informal language. This is a more formal environment, and that means using the appropriate kind of language for a professional environment. Another thing that people often do is they will use any source that they find online to back up their point. But there are some sources that are just not particularly appropriate. This person used Cliff's Notes. That's really not an appropriate academic resource to provide. A legitimate news source, an academic source, those are appropriate, but things like Wikipedia, Cliff's Notes, unless you have independent verification from another site, they're really not appropriate to use. So you might as well use the more appropriate site from the very beginning. This is an example of what a good answer tends to look like. It provides a response to the question, a link to a legitimate outside source that verifies your point, and provides a bit of your own insight into what that answer means to the study of American government. So you're going to receive points not just for grammar, structure, and form, but as well as the content and quality of your posts. A couple of other things to keep in mind. I do keep the course on a schedule. I have the calendar available right here in the class Blackboard section. I strongly suggest that you keep yourself on schedule. You can see when the deadlines are for each one of the sections, as well as when the class begins and ends. Organization is an incredibly important part of college life. So if you haven't gotten yourself organized, this is a great opportunity to get yourself organized. Also, one unique thing we're doing in this class is we're going to engage in a simulation. If you click on the simulation links, you'll see I've provided instructions to participants right here. As soon as you're done with the syllabus, read through the participant instructions. We'll discuss the simulation a bit more in the coming weeks. Finally, remember that I'm here and available as a resource to you. I have regularly set office hours, but I know that virtual students often work and can't make their schedules fit with the traditional academic 8 to 5 schedule. So I'm here and available in a variety of ways outside of that normal modality. That's email, Facebook, Twitter, all the way to Skype and Google Hangouts. I'll hold virtual office hours every Sunday over Skype. And if there's another medium I'm not using and you are, let me know. I try to expand my online footprint as much as possible to be available to you. I try to be available to my students as much as possible so that whenever you have questions that can't be answered by the syllabus or the course information on our Blackboard site, please don't hesitate to contact me. My personal policy is to respond within 48 business hours of any student contact at the very latest. Usually it'll be much quicker than that. So that's a quick introduction to our class. I'm looking forward to our semester together, and now let's go ahead and get started.